Hey guys, Darren here. Welcome to the Mayhem Morning Minute. It seems like with my work schedule that I am doing these more and more, and I am very, very much trying to do these daily, and I am trying to do them in a fashion where you could actually take your phone and lay it down, and you could listen to it, and you wouldn't even have to look at my beautiful face if you didn't want to. Hang on, I'm passing some people. And you'll notice I'm actually not focusing on the camera. I'm actually watching the road, so I am driving safely, as you can be while you're doing a podcast or a video or a vlog. And I think I was talking to some people, you know, as I'm doing these videos, and I'm doing it on like the lost man. Where has the man gone? Where's the man? We're losing them daily. I think I'm going to start calling some of these manly men musings. And I want to talk to about one of the manliest men I ever knew, and that was my grandfather. He wasn't tall, but he was big in stature. He was maybe 5'6", 5'8". He could read some. He could add, because he sure could figure out a bill. And he was a pulpwooder, worked for a paper mill, and did all kinds of stuff. Indirectly, he worked for Bowater down in Alabama, which was an undercover group that did heavy water testing and research for the Manhattan Project. A lot of people don't know that. That happened down in Childersburg, Alabama. You can look it up. And I have to say, I think it affected him and a lot of other people in that area with a really funky bunch of rashes of cancers. But that is ultimately that's what killed him. But my grandfather was a hell of a man. He would walk into a door sideways, not because he was weird or anything, but because he was so broad across the chest. He was a pulpwooder, like I said, and he did just physical labor all his life. So he was about 5'8", and he was about 3 feet across in shoulders. Broad man, very strong man. I want to say his first heart attack, he was working at Bonet, which was a wire manufacturing plant in Childersburg, Alabama. After his first heart attack, he recovered, and he went into work, and they fired him because he couldn't, they said he was a risk and he couldn't do the work that he did. And he said, all right, and he got his black lunchbox that looks like a little house, and you guys know what I'm talking about, you old guys. And he went back to the house and got a logging chain from when he did his pulpwood, threw it over a tree limb, and pulled a motor out of a neighbor's car and put a new motor in, and charged them. Back then, early 70s, I was a little fella, you know, probably $50 to do that. And heck, that went a long way to feeding everybody. And that's what he did for the rest of his life. He did small engine work, and he worked on cars and worked on trucks. He was the chief for the civil defense in Childersburg, Alabama. Wallace Murphy Taylor, and he hell of a man, very quiet. But when he talked, you immediately perked up because something was going to happen. Somebody might get hit. You never know. But he was a pretty good old man. I remember I guess I was 6 or 7, and I was sitting with him on the back porch, and he was in his rocking chair sitting back there chewing tobacco and spitting. And I said, "What do you got there, Granddaddy?" And he said, "Oh, it's chewing tobacco." I said, "Is it good?" He said, "Oh yeah, it's wonderful." He said, "This is good stuff. Would you like some?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I would like some." And I took a twig of it, and I said, well, I looked at it. He said, "You put it in your mouth and you chew it." And so I took that little sprig, and he said, "No, no, 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 no." He said, "You need to take a big handful of it." And I said, "Okay." And I reached into that beech nut pouch, that silver beech nut pouch with the red rays, the sun rays around it. I think that's what it was. Reached in there and grabbed a handful of that chewing tobacco. And he said, you put it in your cheek and you chew it." And I said, "Okay." And I'm trying to think, this doesn't sound that as good as I thought it was. So I put a big wad of chewing tobacco in the corner of my mouth. Sorry, ran off the road, guys. It's okay, we're all good. Put a big wad of chewing tobacco in the corner of my mouth, and he says, "Now you start chewing it." And I started chewing. I remember I was 6 maybe. And I started chewing. This was back in the days when little boys ran around without wearing shirts. And so I'm sure I was sitting there without wearing a shirt, just sitting there chewing on the porch in the afternoon. And just chewing and chewing. And Granddaddy leaned over in his rocking chair, spit. And so I leaned over the ledge, and he says, "Old men spit." He said, "Young men swallow it because they're younger and stronger." And I said, "Okay." And so I sat there chewing and swallowing and chewing and swallowing and chewing and swallowing. And then I felt something start to happen down in my stomach. And Granddaddy said, "You okay, baby boy?" That's what he always called me, baby boy. He said, "You okay, baby boy?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And I leaned over the rail, and I threw up my guts. I swear to God, I threw up stuff that I hadn't eaten in months. I threw up so bad. And then I sat back down, and he looked at me. He says, "You all right?" I said, "Mm-hmm." He said, "You want some more?" And I said, "Mm-mm." He said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Mm-hmm." He said, "Well, all right then. I guess that was good for you then, wasn't it?" He said, and I said, "Mm-hmm." I have never chewed tobacco. I am 51 years old. I have never chewed tobacco since then. Since I was 6 years old. I learned how not to chew tobacco from that old man. And I have to think, at the time, he had probably had 4 heart attacks, and I think that was the quadruple bypass that he had. And again, he was a very quiet man, did not talk, did not raise his voice much, but when he spoke, something was about to happen. That was very much how my grandfather was. My mother and I lived with him and my grandmother until I was 6 years old, until she married my father, who's my stepfather, obviously. And but you know, that's just how I grew up. And it's just very funny, though, that these very quiet, rough, strong men, you know, if you had to cry, maybe you went in the bathroom and cried or something like that. But by God, you were a man, and you were going to take care of your family, and you were going to bring home a check, and you're going to feed everybody, and then everybody was going to have a good evening. And why were they going to have a good evening? Because you took care of them and you fed them. And that is today considered very sexist. You know what? I don't care. I really don't care. My wife and I, the Hooch, we have a very traditional household, much like that. I'm not saying it's the right way. I'm not saying it's the wrong way. I'm saying it's our way. That's what we do. Might not work for y'all. That is okay. I know some really strong, powerful men who don't work, who take care of their grandkids and their kids. And they have raised them kids up to be mighty men. And you know what? That is all right. If that is how you do it, if that is okay with everything, and if you're good with it in your heart, by God, you run with it. Hey guys, if you like it, I love it. That's what we do. So there is no sexist to it. It is just what we did. Now, I do have to say, we are very old-fashioned in the way we think and the way we do things. But that is just how we are. And people criticize us or myself, saying, well, you should, you know, you shouldn't be so old-fashioned, and you know, women can vote now and all that stuff, which, you know, I kind of laugh off. It's all right. That's fine. I don't, that stuff doesn't bother me. But one thing that I find very interesting is the women that feel that way, and they look at my wife and they say, well, you can't, you should be out working and being independent and doing everything. And then I shut them down pretty quick, because I lean over to the Hooch and I say, hey babe, what time do you set your clock to get up in the morning? And she says, whenever I want to. And those modern independent women look at her, and she'll tell them, don't mess up my good thing, because I don't have to work. I'm not saying everybody can do that now, because there are things going on in this world, and we have made sacrifices so that our family can be that way. And I am not saying, again, that that's the way you should do it. I'm saying that's how I do it. And love me, hate me, I don't care. That's how we do it. I am fortunate enough that I can do that for my wife. And one day I'll tell you some of her story, which is a very, no, I probably won't. That's a very bad story to tell. But I am very proud and very happy that I can afford to take care of my wife the way I can now. And that is what we do. All right, guys, good grief, it's been 15 minutes. If you would, I know your dads and your granddads and your moms and your grandmamas whipped your butts to make you the men you are. And I don't want anybody to think that it was just the men that molded me. My grandmother would whip my butt and recite Bible verses to me while she did it. And she should have whipped me harder, is what I would have to say. She should have whipped me harder. But I'm going to let y'all alone. I'll leave you guys with this. There are some strange things and some strange times. I would ask that you keep your family close, give them a hug, and as always, take care of your people.